Welcome to Guide to IELTS. Let's solve IELTS Academic Reading Passage 3, that is Section 3 of Test 1 of Cambridge IELTS Book 16. The first thing we do is read the heading and the subheading if there is any. We have a short heading here, the future of work. There is no subheading. I'm actually not able to guess much just by reading this. The passage could be about anything from management techniques to maybe psychology of workers, to technology maybe. Next we look at the question types. The first question type that we have is multiple choice questions. What I know about this question type is that the answers are usually in sequence. That is, wherever I find the answer to this 27th question in the passage, the 28th would be after that and so on. Usually it is easy to locate where the answers to multiple choice questions are, but figuring out the correct answer is rather difficult. Moving on to the next question type, it's complete the information, where we have to fill in these blanks. In this particular case, we are actually given words that we have to choose. Whenever this question type is given, that is complete the information or fill in the blanks, I always make a note if any heading is given to the questions. In this case, there is. It says, the algorithmication of jobs. This term, algorithmication, I've never heard of, and it is anyway in inverted commas. A word in inverted commas usually works the same as proper nouns work when we are looking for answers, because usually there won't be a synonym for this. We would find the word as it is in the passage, and most probably at least once in the passage we'll find this word in inverted commas. It's not a word I've ever heard of. I do know of the word algorithms, which I think refer to computer programs. Actually, the one place I've heard this word the most is about what kind of posts or videos you see on YouTube or on other social media platforms. It says that the algorithm decides what kind of videos you will see in the list of recommended videos, depending on what videos you like or watch the most. So, the YouTube algorithm decides which videos are suggested to you. The heading of the passage is the future of work, and the heading to this question type is the algorithmication of jobs. So I'm assuming it's something to do with usage of computer programs or just technology in general in different kind of jobs. The last question type that we have is match the information. This question type has many different types of questions within itself. Sometimes we have to match two halves of a sentence. At other times, like in this one, we are given a list of people and we have to match this list of statements to these people. So it could be about who said what or who discovered what. Once I've looked at the question types, the next thing that I do is I try to get the gist of the passage. I read beginnings and endings of paragraphs, trying to figure out what the whole passage is about. While doing this, I consciously ignore proper nouns, that is names of people, places, institutes, etc. However, if I see a list of names in my question types, I will keep these names in mind. The main thing I'll be looking for when I'll be going through the passage is where these names are mentioned. If a name is mentioned in just one paragraph or maybe two paragraphs, I know that all the information about that person will be within those two paragraphs. So the focus will be how often are names mentioned. So the first thing that we had done was just read the heading, trying to guess what the passage could be about from the heading. The second thing is look at question types. While looking at question type, if there is a heading to complete the information question type, we read that heading. If there is a list of people, or it could have been list of places, we glance at those names. And then now the third thing that we do is we try to get the gist of the passage before we start looking for each of the individual answers. Here is the passage. I have numbered each of the paragraphs so that it will be easier for us to figure out which paragraph is being read. But these numbers are not there in the actual test. Usually there are around 7 paragraphs in one IELTS reading passage. For example, in section 2 of this very test, that is book 16 test 1, these are the 7 paragraphs that we had. The word count of each passage is around 850 to 900 words. So when I have 7 paragraphs, what I do is I read the beginning and ending of each paragraph, and that gives me an idea of what the passage is about and what is the structure of the passage, which paragraph contains what information. In the passage that we are doing now, the approximate word count is still the same, but we have 14 paragraphs. and they are very short paragraphs. A lot of them are just single sentence paragraphs. I obviously cannot follow the same technique of trying to get the gist of the passage by reading the beginning and ending of each paragraph. I'll tweak the method that I use and try to focus more on only the beginning of each paragraph. And I'll try to read the ending only if I feel that I'm not able to understand what is being said. When I say read the beginning of each paragraph, I don't usually read the whole first sentence. I just start reading the paragraph. Wherever I get an idea of what is being talked about, I move on to the next paragraph. So let's start. According to a leading business consultancy, 3 to 14% of global workforce will need to switch a different occupation in the next 10 to 15 years. I'll stop here, but since I see this AI mentioned here, I will glance at the next sentence too. So automation is one aspect of the disruptive effects of technology. So from this I can see the first sentence told me that there's going to be change in job market in the next 10-15 years. And then the next one is talking about automation and AI. So I'm assuming the passage is going to be about the impact of automation and AI and algorithms on the job market. One thing to keep in mind when doing IELTS reading passages is that just as in IELTS writing task 2, our first paragraph is the introductory paragraph and the last one is the conclusion. It's the same in IELTS reading passages as well. The first paragraph is the introduction, the last paragraph usually a conclusion. So a lot of times the main content of the passage starts from the second paragraph onwards. Also at this stage, if I come across any big words that I don't understand the meaning of, I try my best to get an idea of what the sentence is saying without those words. When you look for answers, you realize that you are able to find answers without knowing many of the big words in the passage. So don't let these big words bother you. For example, in this one, I'm seeing embodied artificial intelligence and disembodied AI mentioned here. In this case, I would specially not think about it because they are in inverted commas. They are clearly terms used for something technical. Similarly, if I see here disruptive effects of technology, let's assume I don't know the meaning of the word disruptive. There are some effects of technology. It could be a good effect, it could be a bad effect. It's not something I need to think about at this stage. Moving on to the second paragraph. Dr. Stella Pashidi, I found one of the names that is in the list that we had in the questions. So this part, the name of the school, I'm not reading. She believes that some of the most fundamental changes are happening as a result of the algorithmication of jobs. I found this word algorithmication that was there in the questions right here. So when I'll be looking for answers to complete the information question type, I'll start from here. So it seems like this person is saying that the main changes that are happening in jobs are because of some kind of computerization of jobs. I'm going to skip the rest of this paragraph to the third paragraph now. In the third paragraph, everything that is there is in inverted commas. That is, this person is saying all of this. So I see that her name is here in the third paragraph also, and names are important because we have a few questions with a list of names. I just glance at the rest of the passage and realize that this person's name is mentioned till the 8th paragraph. Anyway, back to the third paragraph. In many cases, they outperform humans. So they, I assume here is again the algorithms or the computer programs that are being talked about. Fourth paragraph now. But these enhancements are not without consequences. So consequences is the impact of something, could be positive or negative. An enhancement is improvement of something. So I'm assuming the improvement that happens in the workplace or in the work that is done because of the algorithms being used does have some consequences. And from the tone, it seems that we are talking about negative consequences. I will, however, not read the rest of it. What I see till here is that the beginning first paragraph was an introduction to AI. Second paragraph on, this person is talking about algorithms and how they work in jobs and how they impact things. Fifth paragraph now. Another issue is the extent to which technology influences or even controls workforce. Since this paragraph begins with another issue, I'm assuming the fourth paragraph talked about the first issue or the first problem caused due to the use of technology and algorithms. Because it's a comparatively longer paragraph, I'll just glance at what is there at the end of the paragraph as well. However, the company had started using some algorithm, this AN is clearly name of some algorithm, that defined when account managers should contact certain customers. So this seems to be some kind of an example of a company using algorithms. Sixth paragraph, the algorithm often becomes the keeper of knowledge. Actually, I'm immediately thinking of my own computer, which has all my files, all my information, my phone, which has my contacts. So technology in various forms becomes the keeper of knowledge. That is, it stores the knowledge, it keeps the knowledge. I did not read this part between the two dashes. Any information that is between two dashes is add-on information, additional information. Even if we don't read it, the sentence still makes sense. So when we are trying to get the gist of a passage, we do not read this part. We can use various punctuation marks to help us read quickly. I've discussed this in another video in detail. Next paragraph, the seventh paragraph. Pashidi and colleagues even observed people developing strategies to make the algorithm work to their own advantage. To use something to one's advantage means to use something that could have been harmful in such a way that it is helpful to a person. So what it means in this sentence is that people figured out ideas and ways to use the algorithm in such a way that the algorithm started helping them. So having just read very small parts of each of these 7 paragraphs, I have a vague idea that this person initially is telling about how algorithms are being used or will be used in the workplace, followed by how they can be helpful, but then details of what can be the negatives of use of algorithms. The 8th paragraph now. It's scenarios like these that many researchers are working to avoid. So in the last paragraph, we had read that people are using algorithms to their benefit. This could mean that researchers are trying to find ways so that users are not able to use the algorithms to their advantage. I can't be sure though, but in this step, I just read small parts of each paragraph, try to use a little imagination, but do not go into the details of anything because that is not the purpose of this step. This step is only to get an idea of what the passage is about. You may feel you're not really getting any in-depth information, but you already know a little bit about what the passage is about. When we just read the heading, The Future of Work, we knew nothing. But now we know that it is clearly all about using technology, using computers and computer programs in workplace, how it is helpful, what are the negatives of it. 9th paragraph now. Here another person is mentioned, Hamish Lowe. And as I glance at rest of the passage, that is 9th paragraph onwards, I think Stella Pashidi's name is not mentioned again. Hamish Lowe believes that future of work will involve major transitions across the whole life course for everyone. So here on, it is the opinion of this person who seems to be saying that some major changes would happen in future. Next paragraph, the 10th paragraph. On the subject of job losses, Lowe believes the predictions are founded on a fallacy. Again, a word you may not know. Ignore it at this point. Even if you just get an idea that this person has some opinion about job losses in the future, it could be that he's saying there will be job losses, or he could be saying there won't be job losses. But don't let it bother you. Still, a quick vocab lesson. Fallacy means when you believe in something which is actually untrue, a misconception. A couple of sample sentences are on your screen. Back to our passage. Now that we know the meaning of fallacy, so we know that what this person Hamish Lowe is saying is that the belief that people will lose jobs in the future is wrong. The 11th paragraph now, and we have the third name now. So Hamish Lowe is just mentioned in 2 paragraphs. Getting information about what he said will be easier as compared to the first name that we had. In the 11th paragraph, Dr. Ivan at, I'm going to cross out all of this because I won't be reading this. So this person agrees that apocalyptic views about the future of work are misguided. Again, a couple of difficult words. To guide someone is to show someone the way. So misguided is kind of being on the wrong path. So misguided is similar to fallacy, that they are wrong beliefs. Apocalyptic is another word you may not know the meaning of, and it is in inverted commas. You can just ignore it. And still, a quick vocab lesson. The word apocalypse reminds me of some of the movies that I've watched, which are talking about the end of the universe or some major destruction happening. From that noun, we get the adjective apocalyptic, something huge and very negative. Another word for that is catastrophic. So what is being said in this sentence we just read is that this view that something really bad is going to happen in the future regarding jobs is a wrong view. The 12th paragraph now. His recently published research answers the question whether automation, AI, and robotics will mean a jobless future. So this his clearly means that we are talking about the same person as the previous paragraph. And it is about his research, again to do with jobless future, a continuation of what was mentioned in the previous paragraph. The second last paragraph now, the 13th one, he adds, again the same person is being mentioned, and actually further in the paragraph I see the name of this person also. So he adds, if there is going to be change to jobs as a result of AI and robotics, then I'd like to see government seizing the opportunity. So what I see is that the previous two paragraphs were saying that in all probability this whole viewpoint of people losing jobs could be wrong. But now he is saying that if people will lose jobs, then governments maybe should do something. Finally, the last paragraph. The promises of these new technologies are astounding. Astounding means something which is surprising, which is shocking. I'm going to skip to the end of this paragraph now, but I do see this mention of he here. So the same person is being talked about. End of the paragraph. But it will not only be one of technology, the next revolution will be social. So as expected, this is kind of a conclusion, making a general statement about the major changes expected in the future, I assume. Before we move on to the questions, let's just quickly review what we already know. We know where the names are mentioned of all the three people. We know the basic structure of what is being talked about in the passage. It starts with a general statement about job losses and AI. Till paragraph 8, we have information about how algorithms are used in jobs and then what are the issues related to it. 9th paragraph onwards, there is discussion about whether there will be job losses because of it or not. There is always the possibility that we miss some big information because we are just reading very small parts of each paragraph. But still we know quite a bit so that it will be easier for us to locate where the answers are. The next step now, the 4th step, where we actually start looking for answers. There are differences in how we handle each question type. The major difference is on the basis of whether we expect the answers of the questions to be in sequence or not. Let's get started with the questions now. The first set of questions that we have are these multiple choice questions. So we'll start with them. In case of multiple choice questions, the first thing that we do is find the location of the answer. Sometimes we have to figure out the key information, the keywords for it, and sometimes we actually have the paragraph number given in the question itself. So in this case, it says the first paragraph tells us about. It's a very general statement. It's almost as if I need to give a heading to the whole paragraph. So I'll need to quickly go through the paragraph. What I do in this case is I start reading the beginning of a sentence, and once I have a fair idea of what it is saying, I may skip certain words and focus on a few phrases so that I just understand what the paragraph is saying. Let's start here now. According to a leading business consultancy, 3 to 14% of global workforce will need to switch to a different occupation within these many years. And all workers will need to adapt as their occupations evolve outside increasingly capable machines. Automation or some kind of AI is one aspect of disruptive effects of technology on the labor market. This AI, like the algorithms running in our smartphones, is another. Disruptive typically means anything that causes a problem. But when we are referring to technology, it can refer to technology which is innovative, which has widespread impact. However, in this case, because it says disruptive effects of technology, we are in all probability talking about the negative effects of technology. We're talking about how technology can cause problems in labor market. Words like embodied AI and disembodied AI, these I'm not focusing on because they're just terminology. Effectively, what the paragraph is saying is that a lot of people are either going to lose their jobs or they would need to change the kind of job they are doing because of automation, and then two types of automation are mentioned. I'll read through the options in the question now. The kinds of jobs that will be most affected by the growth of AI. Actually, they are not even examples of any jobs that will be affected, just that they will be. So this is not the answer. B, the extent to which AI will alter the nature of the work, the extent to which is 3 to 14%. How much? So there is a measure given to how much AI will affect the work. This seems to be the correct answer, but I'll still read the others. The proportion of the world's labor force who will have jobs in AI in the future. How many people will have jobs? There is no mention of how much employment or unemployment will be there. It says all workers, that is, everyone will need to adjust to or adapt to new types of occupations, new types of jobs. But nothing in whole of this says how many people will or will not have jobs. So no. The difference between ways that embodied and disembodied AI will impact on workers. How will these two impact the workers? How are the two of them different? Again, there is no such mention of how they are different. I have consciously avoided going into the details of what embodied AI means or what disembodied AI means because these are technical terms and I will try to understand them only if they are directly part of a question. But what I'm looking for now is, does this paragraph mention in any way the difference between how this one impacts and how this one impacts? There is not. It just says that this is one aspect of how labor market will be impacted and this is another aspect of how it will be impacted. That is all. So this is again not the answer. When I read B, I was pretty sure it was the answer, but I was not 100% sure. Whenever I'm doing multiple choice questions, I know that very often, to be sure of an answer, I would need to cross out the other options. That is what I've done here. Moving on to the next question now. According to the second paragraph, what is Stella Piccidi's view of the knowledge economy? I know where the answer is. It is in second paragraph. The main term I'm looking for is knowledge economy. Because this term is in quotation marks, I know I will find it exactly as it is in my passage. I look for this and then I'll try to figure out what this person says about knowledge economy. In second paragraph, this is knowledge economy. I'll start reading this sentence. This person from wherever, this part doesn't matter. I'll start reading from here. Believes that some of the most fundamental changes are happening as a result of the algorithmication of jobs that are dependent on data rather than on production, the so-called knowledge economy. So what is knowledge economy? Knowledge economy is the economy, the way of working where data is more important than production. Basically what we are saying is that data, that is stuff inside computers, is more important in knowledge economy than the actual products being produced. Having read this one sentence, I'll first see the options. If I'm not able to understand what the possible answer could be, then I would read the rest of it. So what does she say about knowledge economy? It is having an influence on the number of jobs available. It doesn't say anything about the number of jobs. It does say that the most fundamental changes, the most important changes are happening because of knowledge economy. But no, the number of jobs are not mentioned. It is changing people's attitudes towards their occupation. Is there any mention of how people think of their jobs, how people behave when they are at job? Not at all. So this is clearly not the answer. It is the main reason why production sector is declining. Main would be similar to fundamental, certainly. But is there any mention of production sector declining? What this says is that the dependence is more on data than on production. But is production sector declining? Is there a decrease in production sector? That is not mentioned at all. It is a key factor driving current developments in the workplace. Key, fundamental, factor, a reason or cause for something. And driving, which is causing something. So it is a key reason behind, or it is the main reason behind current developments in the workplace. What is currently or what is now happening in the job environment. So current developments are current happenings in jobs is because of knowledge economy. And knowledge economy is that data is more important than production. So D is the correct answer here. In this one, it was B. So what we have observed here is there was this just one sentence starting from the beginning of second paragraph till knowledge economy, but it required actual understanding of what was said to be able to find the answer. We start with the 29th question now. What did Pashidi observe at the telecommunications company? The answer to the previous question was here, so I start scanning the text after this for mention of a telecommunications company. I keep in mind that it can be in any of the paragraphs till paragraph 8 because the last mention of Stella Pashidi is in paragraph 8. Now that I have found where I am expecting my answer to be, I'll read the question again. What did she observe at this company? So I'm going to start reading this paragraph now. Another issue is the extent to which technology influences the workforce. For over 2 years, she monitored a telecommunications company. The way telecom salespeople work is through personal and frequent contact with client, using benefit of experience, assess a situation, reach a decision. However, the company had started using AN algorithm that defined when accounts managers should contact about how the salespeople in telecommunication company worked. I'm just going to glance at the next paragraph as well, just to see if it is a continuation of this topic only. It kind of is. The algorithm, usually built by external designers, often becomes a keeper of knowledge, she explains. And then there are details of the algorithm. If I'm not able to find the answer to my question within the 5th paragraph, then I may have to read up on the 6th one too. But for now, I'll avoid doing that. So I'm going to start reading the options. She observed staff disagreeing with recommendations of AI. At least till here, there is no mention of any such thing. Next one, staff feeling resentful about intrusion of AI, staff making sure that AI produces the results that they want. So AI here is the algorithm that is being used. And clearly the answer is not in the 5th paragraph, even though the term telecommunications company was found here. So it seems as if the answer is later. All the 4 options that I have are about staff doing something. I'll try to narrow down my search area because what I see is that 6th, 7th, 8th all are about what Pashidi says, and the 8th paragraph mentions AI. Although AI and algorithm seem to be used interchangeably. I'll keep the word staff in mind because all 4 options have staff. Employees, workers. Let's see where staff members are mentioned. I'm just scanning through this now. Workers would be staff members. So I'll just read this sentence. Workers learn through the algorithm's eyes and become dependent on its instructions. Alternate explorations are effectively discouraged. They even observed people developing strategies to make the algorithm work to their own advantage. We've discussed this before. It means to use something in a way that it helps you or it is biased towards you. So we are seeing cases where people feed the algorithm with false data to reach their targets. And the word observed is here as well. Was the staff disagreeing with what the AI or what the algorithm was recommending? To feel resentful is to feel a little irritated or upset towards something. Was the staff unhappy with AI? No mention of that. Staff making sure AI produces the results they want. This is mentioned here in the 7th paragraph. The staff members or the workers would put false data into the program so that they are able to produce the results they want. This seems to be the correct answer. The last option is staff allowing AI to carry out tasks they ought to do themselves. There is no mention of staff not doing their own work and getting the algorithm or the AI to do their work for them. So this is again the incorrect answer. The last question of this category now, the 30th one. In his recently published research, Evan McGoey. So the first thing I'll do is look where this person is mentioned. I already know that this person is not mentioned in the first 10 paragraphs. The mention of this person starts from the 11th paragraph. So obviously the answer would be either in the 11th paragraph or later. Next thing I'm looking for is the published research. I'm not only looking for what this person is saying, but I'm looking for what this person has said in some paper or some research that he has published. And here it is. So I'll just glance at the 11th paragraph. There is no mention of anything being published here. So I'll start from the 12th one. What is this person doing in this paper? I'll just read through the 12th paragraph. In this paper, he answers the question of whether automation, AI, and robotics will mean a jobless future by looking at the causes of employment. History is clear that change can mean redundancies, but social policies can tackle this through retraining and redeployment. What does this mean? Well, the first sentence just means that he has answered whether there will be unemployment because of AI, etc. Here onwards, what he's saying is that history has also taught us that people may lose jobs. Redundancy means something no longer being useful. If I have something which I used in the past, but it is no longer useful today, I can say it has become redundant. For example, if I used a typewriter before and then I got a computer, I could say that typewriter has become redundant, or I could say that computer is responsible for the redundancy of the typewriter. That is, the typewriter no longer being of any use. In context of this passage, redundancy means people no longer being useful in certain jobs because algorithms and AI and computers take over that job. History is clear that change can mean redundancies. That is, that it has happened before also, that when change happens, some people, some professions are no longer needed. But social policies can tackle this through retraining and redeployment. Let us assume you don't know the meaning of the word redeployment. Even without that, you should be able to understand what is being said. Social policies, policies of the society, policies by the government, they can solve this problem through training people for something else. Redeployment, by the way, means to put person at work at some other place. So if a person is working at one place and is no longer needed there because of automation, because of technology, he can be trained for some other work and he can be employed somewhere else. Now that I have read this one paragraph, I'll try to see what the 4 options are in the 30th question and if I'm able to figure out the correct answer. If I'm not able to figure out the correct answer, I'll have to continue reading the 13th paragraph because 13th and 14th paragraph just say he adds. Even here he adds is mentioned in 14th paragraph, which means the same published research is being talked about in the other 2 paragraphs as well. But if I try to understand everything that is being said in 13th paragraph and then in the 14th paragraph, it will take up too much time. I'd rather understand what the options are before I decide whether I need to read the rest of it. So in the research, this person challenges the idea that redundancy is a negative thing. To challenge an idea is to question the idea. So challenging the idea that redundancy is a negative thing means questioning whether redundancy is negative. Is he saying that? He is not. He is just saying that change can mean redundancies. He's not saying it's okay that people are becoming redundant. So I don't think this is the answer. He shows the profound effect of mass unemployment on society. This is not mentioned anywhere in the 12th paragraph. I may need to start reading the 13th one, but I'll read the other options before I decide to do that. Highlight some differences between past and future job losses. He does talk about history in the 12th paragraph, but he just says that there have been redundancies in the past as well. But is there a comparison between how it was in the past and how it is expected to be in future? At least in 12th paragraph, that's not mentioned. Illustrates how changes in job market can be successfully handled. Illustrate means to show something. Has he shown how changes in the job market can be handled? He has actually done that. Handled means tackled. And how can changes in job market be tackled? These are the changes and they can be tackled or they can be handled through retraining and redeployment. This could be the answer. I'm a little apprehensive though because I have not read the rest of it at all, the 13th and 14th paragraph, and both of them do talk about what this person is saying. If I'm short of time, I would mark D as the correct answer. However, in my question paper, I would maybe put a question mark before it or just mark it in some way so that if I have time, once I'm done with whole of my reading, I'll recheck this answer. What I'll do now is mass employment, past and future job losses. I'll keep these two things in mind and just start scanning paragraph 13th and 14th. If there is going to be change to the jobs, I'd like to see government seizing the opportunities, policy, reprogram the law. This seems an extension of how laws should be changed to deal with unemployment, which actually supports the option D that we have chosen. 14th now, the promises of these new technologies are astounding. Industrial revolution, mass production. So mass production is mentioned, but nothing about mass unemployment. These two are not really mentioned anywhere in the passage. Answer is D. We start with the next set of questions now, which is complete the summary or fill in the blanks. The instruction says that we have to choose the right word. Do understand that if the answer is pressure and if you write pressure in your answer sheet instead of A, it will be marked wrong. We came across this word in the second paragraph for the first time here. So this is where I'll start looking for the answer. As I start reading through the questions, I've actually found this detail as well. So this person has been focusing on algorithmification of jobs which rely not on production but on something. So I look for production, found it here. So this does not rely on production, it relies on what? It relies on data. Now usually if in this question type we are not given these options, we usually find the exact word that we need to write as the answer. For example, here I would have written the word data here, but that is not an option because data is not one of the options given. So I would need to look for a synonym of it. It's information here. So the answer here is information and it is G. We continue reading the question now. While monitoring a telecommunications company, she observed a growing something on the recommendations made by AI as workers begin to learn through the algorithm's eyes. This one sentence has two key phrases, both from different paragraphs. Telecommunications company is from paragraph 5, while algorithm's eyes is from paragraph 6. And growing is an increase in something. So I'll start scanning from paragraph 5 to see if there is a mention of something increasing and to see if there is a mention of workers or staff members or employees. In paragraph 5, I see that salespeople are mentioned, which could be workers, but I don't see any mention of any increase. I don't see any mention of workers or staff being mentioned generally. I'll start scanning paragraph 6 now. If needed, I'll come back to paragraph 5. So in paragraph 6, it says, the algorithm often becomes the keeper of knowledge. In cases like this, a short-sighted view begins. Workers learn through the algorithm's eyes and become dependent on its instructions. So instructions would be recommendations. So its instructions are the instructions of the algorithm or instructions of the AI. So there is a growing something on the recommendations or on the instructions of AI. The answer is dependent. So what I have to look for from this list is a synonym of dependent. Pressure, satisfaction, intuition, promotion, reliance. A growing or an increasing reliance or an increasing dependence on the recommendation or on the instructions of AI. My answer here would be E. We continue now. Meanwhile, staff are deterred from experimenting and using their own something. Deterred is discouraged. Experimenting is experimentation. So we are looking for what they are discouraged from. They are discouraged from experimenting and using what? Could be using their own instinct, could be using their own ideas. Keeping instinct and ideas in mind, I start looking at the options and the option is C. Using their own intuition, which is their own instinct. The correct answer would be C. Let's continue. To avoid the kind of situations which Pashidi observed, researchers are trying to make AI's decision-making process easier to comprehend and increase users something with regard to the technology. Let's look for the main keywords. The answer would obviously be in the 7th paragraph or in the 8th paragraph. The researchers are trying to do something to AI's decision-making process. One, they are trying to make the process easier to comprehend, easier to understand, and increase something with regard to technology. That is what we are looking for. Let's start scanning the passage. So this one, the 7th paragraph, just seems to be a continuation of what is said in the 6th paragraph. It is only in the beginning of the 8th paragraph that we read about avoid and researchers. I start scanning from this, their objective. Their objective is to make AI technologies more trustworthy and transparent so that organizations and individuals understand how AI decisions are made. Understand is comprehend. Organizations and individuals are users. So if AI technologies are more trustworthy and transparent, and if users, that is organizations and individuals, understand them, the users have more confidence in technology. The answer would be confidence. This set of questions was comparatively more difficult. One, because we needed to figure out synonyms of the answers we found in the passage, and also because the answers were not as straightforward. There was a need for us to really understand what was being said in the passage to be able to figure out the answer. Anyway, the answer of 34th is F, that is confidence. And let's start with the last set of questions. Do observe that there are large parts of the passage that we don't need to go through to find answers. We just need to locate where the answers could be and focus on that part. In the last set of questions, we have to figure out who said what. The instruction here that you may use any letter more than once is very important. In this case, it is kind of obvious because we have 3 options A, B, and C, but we have 6 statements. Sometimes you may have 6 options and 6 statements, and still this instruction may be there that you can use any letter more than once, which would mean that some letter may not be used at all and another one used more than once. This is one of the question types where I do like to glance at the given statements before I start looking for answers. I do know already that Stella Pashidi is mentioned first in the 2nd paragraph and then repeatedly till the 8th paragraph. 9th and 10th paragraph are for Hamish Lowe, and 11th paragraph onwards we have Evan McGoy. I'll try to look for answers of B and C before I go to A because there is a lot more content of Stella Pashidi. Let's start going through the questions now. Great levels of automation will not result in lower employment. As far as I have read, only Hamish Lowe and Evan McGoy have talked about how much unemployment there will be. Greater levels of automation will not result in lower employment. This is my keyword, lower employment. There are several reasons why AI is appealing to businesses. Why do businesses like AI? The reasons for it. AI's potential to transform people's life has parallels with major cultural shifts which occurred in previous eras. Previous eras would be history or past. Cultural shift could mean changes in society, maybe changes in lifestyle. I'll keep that in mind. Comparison of past to present. It is important to be aware of the range of problems that AI causes. We need to know what problems are possible. People are going to follow a less conventional career path than in the past. So conventional career paths are normal careers that people have been taking up, and less conventional are something that is different. So a conventional career path would be somebody becoming a doctor or an engineer or a teacher. A less conventional career path or an unconventional career path would be someone choosing to become a social media influencer or a YouTuber. Authorities should take measures to ensure that there will be adequately paid work for everyone. Authorities are the government, so they should make sure that everybody has work. We have already read about this when we were doing multiple choice questions. It is here in paragraph 12 and 13 about social policies, about government taking action. I have read through all the options trying to understand who is saying what. I do recommend that you read at least 2 or 3 options before you start looking for answers. Identify the keywords and see who has said what. I'll start with Hamish Loeb because there are just 2 paragraphs where this person is talked about. I'll start reading each sentence, but I'll stop wherever I understand what the sentence is saying and if I feel it has no mention of any of the given statements. So this person believes that future of work will involve major transition across whole life course for everyone. So we are looking at major changes. The traditional trajectory is the path, the way that somebody takes for something. So the traditional or the conventional path is full-time education followed by full-time work. Instead, he envisages is he sees or he predicts for the future a multi-stage employment life, one where retraining happens, multiple jobs are there. So this immediately connects to people are going to follow a less conventional career path than in the past. Let us see what phrases have helped us understand. Conventional is traditional, path is trajectory. So what this person is saying is that traditional trajectory, that is the conventional path, is a thing of past. That is, it was something that happened in the past. And he envisages, that is, he sees for the future that there will be something different. And then he goes on to explain the multi-stage employment life, which is not important to our answer. So 39th I know is B. I'll continue with the 10th paragraph also. On the subject of job losses, Lowe believes that predictions are founded on a fallacy. Fallacy, we've already talked about, is something which is a misconception, something which is believed to be true but it is not. Could it be 35th that a greater levels of automation will not result in lower employment? Let's continue reading the 10th paragraph. It assumes that the number of jobs is fixed. If in 30 years, half of 100 jobs are carried out by robots, that doesn't mean we are left with just 50 jobs for humans. The number of jobs will increase. We would expect there to be 150 jobs. So 35th is also B, because what this person is saying is that just because automation is increasing, just because there are robots which are doing some work, does not mean that there will be less employment. This word not is very important in 35th because if you don't read it properly, you may assume that it is talking about resulting in lower employment. So what I'm doing here is I have read through all the 6 questions because there is no sequence of what is coming first. I have some key information in mind that I'm looking for. I have chosen to start from Hamish Lowe because I know there are only 2 paragraphs about what this person has said in the whole passage. I will actually start reading about Dr. Evan McGoey next because 11th to 14th paragraphs are about what this person says. Fewer than Stella Pashidi. And I do know that this information about what government should do is most probably by this person only. I'll just glance at it once more to make sure that I'm correct. From the 11th paragraph now, skipping almost whole of the first line, this person agrees that apocalyptic views about the future of work are misguided. So this person is agreeing with what Hamish Lowe has said, that this viewpoint that everything will be destroyed and that there will be no jobs are misguided, are incorrect. It's the laws that restrict the supply of capital to the job market, not the technology. So this person is saying laws matter more than how much technology there is. I don't see any mention of anything like that in any of our questions. His recently published research answers the question about jobless future. History is clear that change can mean redundancies, but social policies can tackle this through retraining and redeployment. I'll continue with the 13th paragraph. If there is going to be change to jobs as a result of AI, I'd see government seizing the opportunity to improve policy. So the 40th question, authorities should take measures to ensure that there will be adequately paid work for everyone. It's the last sentence of paragraph 13th. Governments bold new policies that guarantee full employment, fair incomes, and a thriving economic democracy. Continuing with the 14th paragraph, the promises of these new technologies are astounding, surprising, shocking. They deliver humankind the capacity to live in a way that nobody could have imagined. Just as the Industrial Revolution brought people past subsistence agriculture and the corporate revolution enabled mass production, the third revolution has been pronounced. This is talking about major changes in how we live. In the past, there was Industrial Revolution, corporate revolution. This is talking about major cultural shifts. So 37th is AI's potential to transform people's lives has parallels with major cultural shift which occurred in the previous eras. In the 14th paragraph, we are talking about the major cultural shifts which are the Industrial Revolution and the corporate revolution, and then mentioning the third revolution which would be because of technology and AI. So we already have answer to 4 of the given 6 statements. Now I'll keep the other 2 statements in mind and start scanning second paragraph onwards for mention of those words. 36 says there are several reasons why AI is appealing to businesses. We are looking for reasons why businesses, why corporations, why companies like AI, and a mention of several reasons, more than one reason. The next one that we are left with is the 38th one, which is it is important to be aware of the range of problems that AI causes. So we are looking for the problems that can be caused because of AI and then the reason to know about them or to be aware about them. But the main thing I'll keep in mind is the problems caused by AI. Let's start scanning from paragraph 2 again. So I'll start reading certain phrases, that is 2-3 words together at one time, trying to see if anything about reasons or problems of AI are mentioned. So paragraph 2, fundamental changes as a result of algorithmification of jobs depending on data, knowledge economy, capable of learning from data. The third paragraph, they outperform humans. Organizations are attracted to using algorithms. Algorithms is AI, attracted is appealing, businesses is organizations. So what are the reasons? Because they want to make choices as well as reduce costs. So third paragraph is mentioning the reasons and Stella Pachidi is the one who's saying it. So A would be the answer to the 36th one. I'll continue from paragraph 4 now. But these enhancements are not without consequences. Consequences are the effects or the result of something, could be positive or negative. So in all probability, the answer would be here, but I'll just see to make sure if there is any mention of being aware of the problems. The proper mention of this is actually in paragraph 8, where it says that the objective is to make AI technologies more trustworthy. Organizations and individuals understand how decisions are made. So we need to make sure we fully understand the dilemmas. That is, we need to make sure we know or we are aware of what problems happen. So the 38th would be A again. It's a continuation of what Stella Pachidi is saying. There are a couple of immediate takeaways from this. 1, as usual, some parts of the passage we didn't have to read. We did find the answers without that. However, whichever parts the answers were in, we had to really understand what was being said. Also, how we look for answers varies depending on the question types. In case of complete the information and multiple choice questions, we worked with one question at a time. In case of match the information, we tried to look at a few of the questions and preferably all the questions beforehand, so that we have the key information in mind as we are looking for it. All said and done, this particular passage is certainly one of the difficult ones. And with this, we are done with all the questions of this passage. Here is a list of some words and their meanings which helped us find the answers. Do like, share and give feedback through comments. Subscribe to our channel. Help us reach a wider audience. All the very best.